Hi, I'm Andrea. Thank you for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. I'm so happy to have you here. A few things that might be helpful before we start. I do happen to be standing on a yoga mat, but you don't need one. Find a place in your house that's not too slippery, maybe carpeted. A couple of yoga blocks would be great. You can use thick books as a substitute, no problem. I like to have a folded towel nearby in case we get on our hands and knees, and I like some padding. You can also sit on your folded blanket, but for sitting, I actually really like to have something even more substantial. No, not my dog. That's not what I sit on. A bolster, you could use a cushion from your couch. And then lastly, I think a chair is great to have around for balance. And once you have those things, or your version of those things, we'll start as we often do in mountain pose. So feet hip distance, you can just face your mat towards me or your body towards me. I'll keep adjusting so that you can see me best. Turn your palms away from each other. Stand with your feet hip distance. Find a soft bend in your knees and a soft gaze out in front of you. You're also always welcome to close your eyes to start here. And let's just pause and find our breath. Appreciate our connection to the earth as we feel the crown of our head extend to the sky. Three moments here, feeling the rise of our breath and the fall of our breath. And some balance in our breath, even in our feet. You could rock a little bit forward and back just to play with that. And a little bit side to side, just kind of feel we're balanced here on our 2 feet. And it's possible before we're done with our practice today together that we might be balancing on 1 foot at some point. I also think a very important balance is effort and surrender, and being serious about what we're doing, but having a good time and maybe even a few laughs. We add on to our mountain. Inhale, arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and take your hands onto your thighs. Inhale your heart forward. Get as long through your spine as you can, and then exhale, hinge at your hips. And inhale, arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Then stand back into your mountain with your palms facing out. Again like that. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V shape, and then exhale, hinge at your hips and take your hands onto your thighs. Inhale your heart forward, and exhale, increase the hinge at your hips, but always keep your head higher than your hips. And then inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Pause. One more time. Inhale, V shape, arms reach. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs. Inhale, extending length through your spine, and then exhale, increase the hinge at your hips. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky. Float your arms along your side and pause in your mountain. Adding on, chair pose. Bend your knees, thumbs to the sky, V shape, like we're sitting in a pretty uncomfortable chair. And then stand and float your arms alongside you. Inhale, chair pose, V shape with our thumbs to the sky, and then stand and float your arms along your side. Adding on, V shape, chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Now as we stand and float the arms alongside us, stand onto your left foot and bring your right knee towards your chest, and then step back down into our chair. V shape overhead. Shift your weight now to your right foot. Take your left knee into your chest. Your arms float alongside you. Stamp back down into chair. This is our inhale. Exhale, stand on your left foot, right knee to chest. Stand into your step into your chair, and then stand on your right foot, left knee into your chest. Keep going. Inhale, chair. Exhale, stand and right knee into your chest. Inhale, chair. Of course, you can breathe a little differently than I'm suggesting if you rather. Left knee into your chest. Let's do 2 more rounds on each side. Chair, and then our right knee into our chest. Chair, and then our left knee into our chest. Chair, and then right knee into your chest. Chair, and then left knee into your chest. Now this time, chair, we're going to stay. I know I said moments ago that it was not the most comfortable chair, but it is one that will make us strong. Now try not to shrug your shoulders into your ears. I know how tempting that is for me too, because it's not the most comfortable chair. Our weight shifts into our heels. There's a little bit of balance here. And some of it is the balance on our 2 feet that we found earlier, but remember that balance of effort and surrender. That balance of being seriously dedicated and yet having fun. 3 moments here. Stand it up. Float your arms along your side. Pause here in our mountain pose. Notice that when we're standing, we're not locked in our legs. That's going to be important when we stand just on one leg, which we actually just did dynamically a moment ago. But we'll stand on one leg and sustain it in a second. And we want to make sure that we're not locked out there. Everything feels a little fluid and fun. We will want to use our chair for this next bit. I'm going to give you an option without a chair also, in case you don't have one or the chair option just doesn't feel right to you. So bringing our chair to face us so that we have access to the seat of it. We'll repeat what we just did dynamically, but we'll hang out in it for a while. So standing first into our mountain, let's set it up that way. Either come onto your right toes and let this be enough. So you can be on your right toes for the whole next thing that we do, or step your right foot onto the seat of your chair. And as you're doing that, I'm going to face you a bit so you can see me. As you're putting your foot on the chair, we're not letting our left hip fall out to the side. So you're putting your foot on the chair and hugging that outer left hip into a midline. Now, feel all 4 points of your left foot on the ground. Stand tall as if in our mountain, and that's true for my friends that are on the on your toes right now. And now arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky. So just straight out to the side. We will continue to challenge our balance a little bit as we turn to the right. So now all of a sudden as we turn to the right, things feel a little bit more wobbly or a little bit harder to figure out where that middle line is. Can you join me in hugging the outer left hip so we don't collapse? Standing tall at the crown of our head. Now might be that you pick up your foot a little bit off the chair here and there. So if you want to really feel the balance challenged and all of this feels okay with you, you might try that. And I think that that's where the smiles and laughs need to come in. A couple moments here. Now just unwind, thumbs to the sky. For our dismount, let's place our hands on our hips so we really know where we are before we step off the chair. And right foot comes hip distance from left, or you lower your heel if you were on your toes. And we'll just soak in as we stand on both feet in our mountain for a moment. Second side, from the majesty of our mountain, it can be as simple as coming onto your left toes. That's a great way to do this. You're still hugging that outer right hip in. So whether you're about to put your foot on the chair, we're not there yet, or not, it's not this business. So step left foot onto the chair, if that's where you want to go with it. Let's all hug that outer right hip in, and then arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky. Pause and find what's called proprioception. That's a fancy way of saying where we are in space. And now we will turn to our left. And that makes it a little harder to to figure out the proprioception, the fancy word for where we are in space. But just do your best, have a smile and a chuckle. Just think of it as an adventure into our own bodies. If it sounds interesting at some point, you could play with lifting your left foot off your chair, even if it's just like a little tap. You'll notice that it becomes a little bit more intense in the standing leg, in your right leg. If it's too intense, skip it. Couple more moments here. Remember how I said we don't want to lock out that bottom leg, so you can keep that little bit of a tiny dusting of bend in your standing leg also. 2 more moments here. Unwind. And as you unwind, I think it's a good idea to stamp your left foot onto your chair if you were experimenting otherwise. Hands on your hips, firm through the outer hip, and then we'll step together into our mountain. And both knees have a soft bend. Find our breath here, kind of digest what we just did. For the next bit, I like to turn so that my chair has the back side or the tall side available to me, should I want to use it. Stand in your mountain, and from our mountain we will grow a tree, hands on your hips. And that might mean left hand on your chair back and right hand on your hip. Stand onto your left foot, just like we did a second ago using our chair, and take your right leg out in front of you with all toes facing the sky. Keep hugging the outer left hip in and turn your toes from your hip out to the side. We'll do that one more time. Toes to the sky, and then from your hip, turn your leg out. Kickstand that right foot, come onto the toes like some of us were doing straight forward a moment ago. Maybe foot into your shin, possibly right foot into your left inner thigh. This is not necessarily a goal to get to. These are 3 wonderful options. Each day is a little different. One option might feel better to you today, a different one tomorrow. Now keep your tree trunk solid. Maybe keep your left hand on your chair and right arm out to the side, thumb to the sky. Maybe even a V shape. Here's what we play with, sort of like we lifted our foot a little bit off of our chair. Maybe left arm out to the side or even into a V shape. No pressure to take your hand off the chair. If you don't have a chair, maybe there's a wall or the railing from your couch or something that you can use. We're still not locked out in our standing leg, so your left knee has just that little wobbly bobbly bend where you feel muscles at work. It's a balancing act. Last few moments. Take your left hand onto your chair, take your right hand onto your hip, point your right knee forward, and then step down into our mountain, feet hip distance, and we pause. You don't need to move your chair. I'm going to move mine so that I know that you can see me best. And then we'll switch sides. So first we stand into our mountain, and from our mountain we grow our tree on the second side. So right hand on the back of the chair. We stand on our right leg, left hand on our hip. Left leg out in front. We nerd out a little bit as we turn from our hip, those left toes out to the side, and then come back again. We'll try it one more time so that we know. Left leg turns out, outer right hip is hugging. Kickstand your left foot or place it in the shin of your right leg or in the inner thigh of your right leg. Let's all hug that hip, the right hip in. Left branch out to the side, thumb to the sky. Maybe play with right branch out to the side, thumb to the sky. Can turn into a little bit more of a V shape. We stay here and breathe and probably find a few bobbles and wobbles along the way. There's always a breeze in the trees. All of us are going to wobble at some point. Not just on our mat, but off. And it's the way that we respond to that as opposed to just react and get angry that is part of the mindfulness of yoga. Now return your right hand to your chair and your left hand onto your hip. Turn your left knee forward step down into your mountain and pause. I'll switch my chair, you don't need to, but we will be using that back of the chair again, or you can use your hand on a wall once again. This time, I'll turn to the side so that you can see most easily. We will stand on our left leg and then just take your right heel like you're kicking yourself in the butt. It might be that you don't reach it here. You could lasso that foot, like sort of hook it with a strap if you have one, but a towel is fine. The other thing is it's very valuable just to reach towards it. So you don't have to feel as though if you're not holding your foot that somehow you're doing anything wrong. Some people actually teach it this way because it makes your muscles have to activate even more. Now remember that our outer left hip is not swinging out to the side, and we'll reach back. Some of us might hold the foot, up to you, or up to your body at this moment. Maybe even though you can hold the foot, you choose not to. And you just shift that leg back a little bit. It's a pose called King Dancer pose, and you might take your left hand and sort of play with lifting it off of your chair here too. My big ask is that you keep breathing. And then we have 3 more moments just like this. Hold on to your chair with your left hand. Let go of your right foot with your left hand. Return to your mountain. And pause a moment. Again, I'll switch my chair around. You don't need to, but I want to make sure that we can see one another. And then with our chair in place and our mountain pose as our base, we will now stand onto our right foot and then reach towards our left foot as we kick our heel towards our butt. And it can be a reach towards. You never need to hold on. If holding on somehow works in your world right now, great. Now let's check, because I just needed to, that your right knee has a little bit of a bend. We're not locked out there. And you can kick with your foot a little bit, maybe play a little bit with lifting your right hand off the chair a few times. Last few moments here. I think it's a good idea to have your hands solidly on the chair back as we dismount, letting go of the left foot if you had it, returning to our mountain. I will move my chair out of the way. You might choose to do the same. We'll use a half salutation to get to the floor, so maybe keeping that seat of the chair nearby to help you get down on the ground is something you want to consider. Feet hip distance, inhale, arms out to the side, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs. Inhale your heart forward, and then maybe using the base of your chair, we make our way onto our hands and knees, and this is where I would introduce a folded blanket underneath your knees for some padding. You can keep your toes curled under also. That helps me a lot in terms of making sure my knees feel happy about things. And then we want to be sure that we're not too far forward, so we have too much of a bend in our wrists, and we're not too far back where it becomes very unstable. So spread your hands wide and try to put your shoulders over your wrists as we're here. Step your right foot back as if you were flirting a little bit with a plank position, and then lift that right leg off your mat. Come onto your left fingertips. Keep oomping into your right arm so we don't collapse here. And then consider taking your left arm forward as if to shake somebody's hand for a moment. And here we are in a balancing act on our hands and knees, right? A few moments here. Keep the oomph in your right arm so we don't collapse there. Feel a lift of your low belly. If you need padding but didn't get it, you can always come out of the pose, take care of yourself, and come back. That is very good yoga. Place your left hand down and your right knee down, and then come kneeling and just turn your wrists a little bit. Let them release from our first side. Back to hands and knees. We want to think about what we were mapping. So hands spread wide, shoulders over wrists. We're not collapsed and sagging. We're pushing the ground away, and then step your left foot back as if flirting a little bit with the plank, and then lift that left leg off your mat. Come onto your right fingertips, that might be plenty. Maybe your balancing act allows for your right arm to reach forward and your left leg to reach back as we breathe here. Let the inner part of your left hand press into the ground. So we want to be keeping that hand spread wide and shoulder over wrist happening in our supporting arm. Then breathe and appreciate the wobbles. The wobbles are the win. They're where we learn. Last few moments, just like this. Now, release your right hand down, your left knee down. Let's take our kneeling twirl of our wrists so that they have a moment. I'll turn a bit sideways so that it's easiest for you to see me. We're setting up a side plank. Maybe you watch me first and then join me. So on our hands and knees, just as we did a moment ago, preparing for the pose we just did. But this time, I'd like you to line up right hand, right knee, and left foot, and then take your left hand onto your hip. So imagine a line of your right hand, your right knee, your right foot, and your left foot, all down a middle line. This is quite the balancing act. So this might be enough. We're still not collapsed into that right shoulder, so keep oomping into the ground and spreading that hand wide. Maybe you take your left thumb to the sky and your left arm to the sky, and that's fun to balance in. If you really want to challenge your balance, see how it goes, lifting your left leg off your mat. Might be short-lived. Remember that sense of humor I said was important in our balance? Just 3 moments here. If you took your left leg up, place it back down onto the ground. Bring your left hand onto the ground. Come kneeling, and then let's twirl our wrists. You might even make fists and open up your hands. I know it's a long time on your hands. Now, hands and knees. We line ourselves back up again. This time, left hand, left knee, left foot, and right foot, all on a middle line, and we'll take our right hand onto our hip. Now, some people teach it that you have this arm a little bit further forward. I kind of think shoulder over the wrist is nice. If it's tricky to balance, don't go too far with what I just said about that arm forward, but it might be helpful. Now, you're hugging your left hip underneath you. If it feels like you could stay in your balancing act with your right arm to the sky and your right thumb to the sky, you could do that part. If you want to take it a little bit further into your balancing act and try to lift your right leg off the ground, be my guest. Almost always there's a bobble and a fault. Like, I'm really surprised it hasn't happened for me. And then we have 3 breaths here. Wherever here is. You can keep that right foot on the ground. Stamp your right foot down if you happen to be somebody who took it off the ground. And then we'll take right hand and right knee onto our mat, come kneeling, and let's do our little wrist twirl once again. Maybe fists and opening up our hands too. Great. Make your way onto your back. Once you're on your back, think about our knee that was on the ground in our side plank. Place the bottoms of your feet together and let your knees fall out to the side. Place one hand on your heart and one hand on your low belly. Close your eyes and feel a different kind of balance occur to you here. The balance between effort and surrender that I talked about at the beginning. Let this be a moment to surrender. And close your eyes. You're close to the ground. You don't have to worry about trying to stay balanced away from the ground. 30 seconds of meditation, silence. and hip stretch, starting now. Now gently draw your knees together. Place your feet hip distance on your mat. Take your arms out to the side. You could even cactus your arms if you'd like. Pick up your hips and scoot them to your right. Let your knees spill to the left. If you like, you can cross the right knee on top of your left knee. A spinal twist for a moment or two here. Feel free to close your eyes if you're comfortable with that. And then make your way through center. Place your feet hip distance on your mat. Pick up your hips and scoot them just a little to the left and then spill your knees to the right if you like. You can cross left knee on top of right knee. And then we pause here. And then bring yourself back to center. Uncross your legs if you had them crossed. Place your feet as wide as your mat. Let your knees fall in on each other as if knock-kneed. Pick up your hips just an inch or two gently and place them back down so you feel even and spacious. And either stay just like this for our Shavasana final meditation, or extend one leg and then the other straight. Close, maybe cover your eyes. Let the back of your head feel heavy on the ground. And then let yourself completely let go. So we were really working hard at balance earlier, and now let's let ourselves let go completely into surrender. Shavasana. As always, feel free to stay here in your Shavasana as long as you'd like. If you're ready, start to wiggle fingers and toes. Stretch your arms and legs away from each other and then collect your knees in your chest. Roll gently to either side. Come up to any comfortable seated position and rest your hands on your thighs, palms up or down. Life can be a balancing act too. It's great for us to practice our effort and surrender, our seriousness and our smile, both on our mat together and off. I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me.